Hello, everyone. I am here with Shakima Dorius, clinician and assistant manager at Temple General Hospital. Again, my name is Trevor Williams, and I will be interviewing her, Shakima Dorius, in regards to the urban dialect. So, Shakima, tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you from? What area did you grow up in?
All
Things like that.
right. I'm actually from Miami, born and raised in Miami. I grew up in a middle class area. Um, I would say in a black community.
Okay.
Um, I don't know. I went to school. Mainly, all my classes were like magnet programs. So I went to school with a lot of non-blacks, so like a lot of Caucasians. But when I got home, it was a lot of, you know, my folks. So that was interesting.
So, growing up, what do you feel your greatest influence in the way you spoke was? What like type of people would you say influenced you in the way you spoke?
I think who influenced me in the way I spoke.
Yeah, like what
Um,
what culture I would say.
I can't quite say what culture. I knew I didn't want to come off as like that ghetto Miami
Mm-hmm.
girl from around the way. And it's just something that I feel like Miamians, if that's a word, they speak a certain way, a certain dialect, like just a little ghetto for me.
Mm-hmm.
I would call. So I knew I didn't want to be like that, or I didn't want to sound like that. And I took language in school for like 10 years or so. So that kind of helped influence and shape me and speaking and things. So
Okay. So growing up, you said that you went to magnet school. So I'm sure there was a lot of Caucasian people that
hmm
went there. Were there any African Americans there besides yourself?
yeah, there were a handful. I remember like in class, it'd probably be like in class of 30, maybe five of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did the other African Americans speak?
I think we're all about the same. Like, even now we all sound very intellectual. But we can kind of do the best of both worlds. So I can be very proper, and some people say I sound white. And then I can go from being a little, ghetto or a little hood,
Mm-hmm.
which that don't, typically come out as much unless I'm with friends or something. But I think the ones who I grew up with from the class, we kind of about the same.
Okay. So did you feel like people that you grew up with that were white, were they influenced by some of the other black folks and the way they spoke English?
Um, You know what? I have a neighbor who's actually white, and she sounds more Miami, more black than I do.
Okay.
But again, our neighborhood was predominantly black. I grew up in Opelika,
Oh.
in Miami, so our neighborhood was predominantly black. Went to school with all the kids from around Carroll City, Norland. You kind of all grew up together, went to school together, played together. So that was gonna rub off on somebody somewhere somehow. So
So in terms of society on a bigger scale, how do you feel that African American vernacular English has affected the society today? Do you feel like it's been a huge influence on the way not just black people speak, but the way other cultures speak as well?
yeah, I think it is a big influence because you'll hear a lot of people use terms. I guess kind of like how we use terms.
Mm-hmm.
We may, you know, think of it as terms of endearment that you hear, people say in the black community. Whereas, and you'll hear non-black people use the same thing too, and you're like, wait, hold on,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of can't say that. And I know it's always been like a big conversation, like why can't I say a particular word, but you can say a particular word, or how come I'm allowed to say this and you can't say that? And I think the music has a lot to do with it. Like non-black folks, Caucasian people, they're the main ones buying, the rap album and stuff like that. So they're taking on onto all of that too.
Okay, so you definitely feel like African American vernacular English has had a huge impact on the music industry as well.
Yeah.
Okay, do you feel that people nowadays use African American vernacular English as a platform to gain fame or, to be more profitable?
No, not necessarily. I think everybody kind of have their own, you know, and it's kind of like where you grew up. So I'm gonna use Eminem, Slim Shady for, he's as white as they get. But you listen to his music, like it's a lot of black vernacular in there.
Mm.
But he also grew up, poor as dirt, in the slums of Detroit, so to speak. So I think some of that doesn't necessarily go hand in hand.
Mm.
Um, I just think sometimes it's kind of where you grew up and what you're around and things like that. So
But it all comes back to being an influence, you would say, right?
yeah, it does have some
From
influence, but
okay,
I don't think it's necessarily because you're black or you have black influences that kind of make you speak the way you speak or whatever the case may be.
okay. So in terms of the way African Americans speak, do you feel like they are considered less educated or sometimes ghetto by other cultures?
Yes, but I also feel like it's how you present yourself. So, and unfortunately, everybody, I guess, doesn't have that skill to know. In the workplace, you can't smack your mouth, when you're talking about something. Whereas at home, that could be acceptable because you're behind closed doors, you're at home, you're not in a professional setting.
Okay. Um, do you feel like it is African American vernacular English? Do you feel like it is scrutinized a lot?
Yes, because I think people, like, if you say a word a certain way or people look at you like, what you just say? Or, like, that's not proper, that's not how you say it, that's not how you pronounce it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think, yeah, I would say it's scrutinized.
Okay. What stigma would come to mind when you hear African American vernacular English, or Ebonics, or
Not
Urban
educated is
Dialect?
probably like the first word that comes to mind. Or not educated for some. Sometimes I would probably think they're just ghetto. Like, yeah.
Have you ever felt at a disadvantage compared to other cultures based on the way you speak and the way they speak?
So disadvantage, like how?
So, do you feel like you have to be on your P's and Q's, I'm saying, in terms of like interviews or in a professional setting? Do you feel like you always have to be, on stage in a sense?
Okay. For me, I think it's a little bit of both. I don't really feel I need to be on stage, but I think I get a little bit of heat, so to speak, from both sides. So I can be very proper. So, but that's just how I kind of grew up. So it's not much for me to be proper. So then I have my black friends like, oh, you sound so white, and my white friends like, oh, you sound so proper. And then every now and again, when I do get into that urban dialect, then it's like, oh, you got a little black in you, or you don't have too much black in you.
Mm.
And I'm of Caribbean descent, so like every now and again, I may have like some island twang.
Okay.
So I think that kind of mixes up too. So
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, Shakima. And again, I am Trevor Williams, interviewing in regards to the urban dialect as it relates to influence, scrutiny, and stigma.